This is Noah Morris, and he became a millionaire off of Faceless YouTube when he was just 19 years old, starting with the best strategies that he's using to blow up his channel with right now.
When you guys are doing a new channel or like channels that are growing for the first time, what are some of the main things you look to do with your content within the actual videos?
So when we first start out on channels, like we completely start from scratch. The first thing you're always looking at is looking at just the most popular videos from other channels. And what you want to do is not copy them, and that's I think a very big mistake people make is they think, oh, I need to copy. But the problem with like copying Western channels is that your videos are always going to get served first to the most hardcore. So you have to assume that your video is first going to get served to the person who's watched every single possible video in the niche. That's what your mentality should be. So if you copy a video one-on-one, they're gonna go like, so this stuff.
Yeah, and they used to.
And then YouTube kills your video. That's also a big reason why those channels like where you have that flat line, you go up and it dies. That's usually where viewers go, oh, this is an unoriginal story. Or it happened to be one of the, that was this. And it happens by law. So what you want to do is, you do want to look at most popular. What videos were most popular and let's say lasted months. But what you want to do is find adjacent stories. So let's say we're talking about, so for example, when I was doing the portable reach, I would be making videos like this team reacting to getting a life sentence. I would then just, if you see, okay, that's a format that works really well, you just find adjacent stories. So, okay, maybe there's other things that react to life sentences. Or let's say someone makes a documentary about the worst torture camps in World War II, right? Something like this. What you would do is, okay, we know the subject kind of around like rural torture camps works. What you could do is then say, okay, instead of doing a World War II, what you do is you find an adjacent topic, which would be something like the worst torture camps in China, or the worst torture camps in Vietnam War that you never heard of. And by just sticking to the saying that thumbnail and format of the title, but just then changing the story works really well. We see if it's the same topic, if it's something else, people click without thinking, and that's technically what you want. For example, that's why Mr. Beast always goes viral, because automatically when someone sees his face, they associate that with it, and that causes that ultimate click without thinking. And technically, that's what you want. You want that subconscious click. So yeah, that's what you're doing when you're making videos and adjacent templates. You're leveraging past experience with a certain field.
Yeah, so looking at like the most popular videos in your niche and just finding a way to make it different or do like a new version of the same topic.
Yeah. Basically, well, yeah, I would say like taking the format and applying that to a new topic in the same like niche or something like that.
Let's go back more to like the concepts. So what are some of the concepts? So you mentioned there's only a few concepts that work really well on YouTube. So what are some of the best concepts? What are those concepts, especially for beginners or people growing their first channel?
Yeah, so it depends on what your style is, right? So for me, I really like super viral and like super channels that grow super fast, just because I'm very good at catching the right trends and right niches at the right time, right? So that's what I'm really good at. So that's what I specialize in. But if you, for example, don't like that type of pressure, because it is a lot of pressure to kind of always make sure you hop onto the next wave, then you can do something like documentaries, right? Those are usually a bit long term. If you're looking at something that's a bit shorter term, you're looking at compilations, news, things that mainly rely on the subject being relevant, right? Documentaries, you usually make videos about things that are evergreen. So those two are like polar opposites, I would say. And then you have like niches or formats into it, right? So you have things like stories that I would say would kind of be like intermediate between those two. And then there's other formats that fill the gaps. Like, for example, an ultra durable format would maybe be a podcast. And then super short-term channels would be like news around a big story breaking. Like, for example, you recently had the Diddy scandal, or you have the US elections going on right now. Those are two niches I quite a lot from this year.
I think especially for people that are like growing their first channels, like one of the most important things we talk about a lot is just doing something where people would be interested in the content itself, like what you're making a video about. Because I think a lot of people fall into the trap of like, focusing on their personality or just trying to be entertaining, when it's like really you need something that kind of gets people interested in the subject matter of the video too.
That's actually a really good strategy as a beginner YouTuber. It's like if you have like one video that works, just do like funny variations of that video, just like stick to the
Or even if you don't have a video that works, you could look at like other channels and a different version of it. Like if you're doing US elections, make a channel that covers, like you said, the Canadian election.
Yeah, that was the cool part. And then the nice part at the same time is I had these super viral channels, but then the like more evergreen, like what happened to X, like the TV show stars, those channels are super consistent with the income. For example, I have this one video on the channel I showed in the beginning, like most heated moments on Family Feud. And that video makes me like $100 a day every day for the last 700 days.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's like these are so consistent because they actually show up in YouTube search.
Yeah.
When you look up Family Feud, it shows up in YouTube search. So that video has been so consistent. And that's the nice part, is if you have like kind of a combination between videos on your channel are very linear, like I targeting YouTube search, and I'm very like channels that grow your audience, right? And YouTube kind of shows this in Android as well, like use that grow your audience versus the ones that kind of innate. So yeah, that's our style there.
So on that note, like what do you think are some of the biggest things that separate the good concepts from the bad concepts?
I think, well, the first thing you have to accept, and I think this is like the biggest business mistake every beginner makes, is that people naturally assume that people are interested in what they have to say. Like nobody cares. That's already at the zoo. The first step one is like nobody cares. And what separates a good concept from a bad concept is how many people, first of all, care about what you're making videos about. That's the first question you need to ask yourself, right? If you get into a big niche. So, for example, let's say your ambition is to get 2 million views a month. If you get into something that's hyper specific, which would be maybe like a midget pool or like a mini golf surface. The mini golf is quite a specific niche, right? So to reach 2 million views a month very consistently is very difficult. So first of all, you have to see, okay, is what I'm going to do even going to be a viable model for the goal I'm trying to achieve? That's the first question you got to ask, and you got to set the goalposts. If you don't know your goalposts, obviously you don't know if you don't have a reference for success. That's the first question. So let's say the goal is just to earn $10,000 a month. Well, there's 2 ways you can go about that, and I think you should try to specialize on YouTube as much as possible, just because you have to view YouTube as one like really big game of chess, or like the game of Monopoly. I think it would be a good comparison. You're competing with tens and tens of thousands of other creators, right? And if you're a generalist, you're always going to get beaten by all these specialists everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So first question you want to ask yourself is, okay, which direction am I heading in? Am I going to go for a niche that's very specialized, that has maybe a higher RPM? Or am I going for something that's very broad, right? Very viral, like you can think of football or anime with a lower RPM. I would recommend, first of all, specializing in one of those two, because those are very different type of audiences you're speaking to. But if you're speaking to a very specialized audience, you need the handle of authority. If you're speaking to a very general audience, you just need to know, okay, how do it's more of the focus on the packaging, on the retention editing, these type of things. So you need to know what to specialize in first of all. So you choose one of those 2 camps depending on what you think you'd be most comfortable with, and based on that you're gonna set some requirements. So for example, let's say your goal is 10,000 a month, and you choose, okay, I'm going into a very general niche, right? And let's say we choose something like anime. You want to go look for proven concepts, and you probably teach this as well. And I think people forget this too much. They love to be the creative person. Like if you get into content creation, you're naturally as like a creative person, and this is very hard for people to accept. But for your first channel, just try to stick to concepts that are working, even though you absolutely maybe hate it. Just focusing on concepts that are working will teach you the fundamentals. And once you understand those fundamentals, which is, okay, you take that working concept and you start tweaking it and you see the effects of those tweaks, that's where you take a lot of valuable lessons. So that's very, very important. So back to, that step-by-step we were doing. So we went for, those general event channels. We first want to find out, okay, can any of these existing concepts meet our goals, right? So we're going to be looking at, okay, how many views do they have? We know, let's say the average RPM in the animation like of one baller. So you can start calculating for each channel, but is this meet my revenue requirements? And then once you find a concept that meets those revenue requirements, you're going to be looking at how many other people are making those requirements and doing a very similar concept. And you can go step by step from there until basically you've got it down to a methodology. You need to have some kind of methodology, because without it, you're just either gonna fall into something that's very deadly for beginners and everyone will recognize it. It's called the analysis paralysis. And you have this in very, like a lot of business models, but it's a really big killer for creators because we're naturally creative people. And what tends to happen is like, you also want to be like perfect on the first time you go, and naturally you want to fail. So you want to try to make some step-by-step process for yourself. Even if you don't write it down, like try to at least have some like rough concept of it. But yeah, once you get to that stage where, okay, I have analyzed, okay, this is where I want to head. I have confirmed, okay, there's multiple people able to do this, right? Now, the next question would be, how do I go from, okay, I know there are multiple people succeeding here, to this is something I should be doing, right? Because you have to not only look at one concept, you want to be looking at multiple. You know, because what often tends to happen is if you overanalyze, we tend to focus on one subject and you miss out on a lot of opportunities. Like, for example, a lot of people go like, oh yeah, I'm very passionate about arts and crafts or something like that. And in particular, like finger painting. If you overanalyze in finger painting, the market might just not be there. And you might want to like kind of broaden your scope, even if you have to learn more skills. Like if you truly want to be successful on YouTube, you're going to have to sacrifice in some areas. And I think that's something sometimes a very hard pill to swallow for beginner creators.
Yeah, you're going to have to do some things that make you uncomfortable.
100%. So I think those are the first steps to take. And once you have those concepts laid out, right, you go through the same flow over and over again until you have like maybe 3 or 4 concepts laid out. So you went anime niche, okay, that's an option. Maybe I have another interest, we'll say football or something like that. And you lay out these concepts, and then you're just gonna look. And I'd recommend, again, to be for your first couple channels, be very careful in the way you follow your steps. So just be very concrete and follow the steps you've laid out for yourself, because you can go into too many directions at the same time otherwise, and you're not going to be knowing what you're doing, right? So you want to lay out the concepts, and then from there, you just want to objectively choose metrics, and it can be metrics you've proposed in videos, right? Or metrics you choose yourself in order to choose which one just has the better metrics, which could be in order of revenue or order of how many small channels are succeeding, like are there many small channels? For me, for example, what I personally look at is, okay, first of all, can this earn 5K a month? And then to increase success percentage, like in general, you'd be looking at the niches or concepts that have the most amount of small channels succeeding. Like that, if you want to go for a higher success chance, like I think that would be the thing you would be looking at. So for example, if we're talking about more general creators, like decorationality creators, I think a really big market opportunity that kind of shows this in a more general niche would be, for example, what Wizard Miss is doing. We're talking about like femininity. I think that's one of those gaps that are like heavily underserved. Just because if you go ahead now and start cooking a couple of Wizard Liz her titles, you'd see a bunch of these very small, like kind of like copycat channels that have maybe 20, 30 videos, and they have hundreds of thousands of views. Right? And that's really big telltale sign. And I think that's why we succeed. So it really depends. You can do this for us automators, really do this on a channel basis. But you can, the same process you'd also be able to do on a video basis, right? So let's say you have a more general channel. So those are, I think, very interesting areas to look at. Even as a general creator, you should be following that workflow. I think that will massively increase your chances of succeeding. Yeah.
So what are some of like the keys or methods or strategies that you guys implement when doing new channels in terms of like the actual video content wise?
So you first of all want to look at your competitors for that and go, okay, what makes this work? And you have to see past some of the fancy editing sometimes. Like, for example, if you're looking at these 3 like animation documentary channels, the question is like, is it the 3 animation that makes it work, or is it the way the story is told? And in this case, like usually it is a part of the free animation, but there's a lot of channels where the reason the video content worked is deeper than just what you see on the surface. And I'm starting to find a good example of that is that, oh yeah, I'll give you an example. So right now, for example, you have the police body cam. And I think a lot of people assume the reason it works, which is partly true, is because people show the footage, right? They find it interesting, see what happened visually. But then there's also another new adjacent niche, which is basically police body cam, but it's just the narration of what happened. And it's just a story. People are just making up stories. So, and I think the main aspect of what makes the video well done is, I would say, the emotional response viewers have to, for example, something that's not fair. Right? Usually, like the videos that works the best in the police body cam is when someone gets karma or something that's not fair happens. And people have very strong emotional response to that. So you would leverage, you would basically leverage that response in a different format. For example, maybe you can't get a hold of that footage, or you want to have the same style. Try to identify what make the video work, which is that emotional response. And what you need to make sure of is that your video then evokes the same emotions than that other video. And that's just that core concept you need to identify and ensure that it comes back in your video in the same strength, so in the same order of magnitude, right? It needs to be, and preferably it would be even more specialized on what made that video work. And I think that is very, very important.
That's super useful. I think especially like seeing through just the fancy production value, like in my opinion, just personally, I think it almost never is fancy production value that makes a channel successful.
You see, I think a really good example of this is like Ryan Tram. Like, I mean, yeah, like he has cool production value, but in the end, it just comes down to, he's just really good at storytelling. Yeah. And he has an amazing personality, and that's what makes it, I think, work. And I wish there's more to it, like I'm generalizing like crazy, but yeah, there's like I think people love overanalyzing like the production and the editing and retention. Like you see a little trashy channels going viral. That's why there's like a hidden thing, like subconscious thing that makes it work. So sometimes you can't imagine like, why does this work? But it goes deeper than just the production value.
Yeah, we definitely find that like the production value is often just a symptom of success rather than the cause. Yeah. Since like, especially a lot of creators, like once they get really successful, they just want to make their videos as good as possible. Yeah. And a lot of times that's the mindset that caused them to be successful in the first place too. I think a really good example of this is, I think maybe not in the same magnitude, but Mr. Beast videos would, if you dump a train in a big pit, and you did no editing, you just filmed the train going down a massive, like he had like 1 or 2 years where he rode a train into some big hole in the ground. If you just filmed that would naturally by itself go viral. And that's the essence of the video. Without any editing, without any storytelling, that would just go viral. Because it's just that's the essence of what made it work, right? Yeah, it's just like a really cool thing that you're showing. It's not about the editing, it's not about the production, it's about like what you're actually doing with the video. Exactly. So if you had to give one or maybe a few big tips for beginners trying to grow a YouTube channel, what would you say? Okay, so start if you're like procrastinating right now, which I know people struggle with, start by just whenever you're on your phone, first thing you do, just don't start watching YouTube videos. Just start watching channels. Just start scrolling through channels and try to start for every one of these channels. Practice to answer the why a channel is working. Just practice it whenever you're on the bus, when you're outside, you're on your phone. Instead of scrolling through Instagram, open up YouTube, go to your homepage, click on a couple channels, look at the videos and go, why is this working? Right? Maybe write it down in your notes app. Really big exercise that you can that can majorly improve the way you run your YouTube channel. Then second thing is the second thing is take action. Like if you don't know where to start, just go to Wikipedia, open up the first Wikipedia page you see, and try to make the best possible YouTube video from that Wikipedia page. So for example, let's say you go to Wikipedia and you open up a page about Cuba, just try to make a video about Cuba. Doesn't matter. Like just try to start on making a video there. It's so simple, but I think a lot of people fail because they don't even try. And there's a lot of people stuck in procrastination and they're just not moving forward because they're just not doing stuff. And naturally, when you're doing stuff, like things come to you. Like because I'm in motion, things naturally kind of come automatically. So yeah, it's really, really important you're
constantly active. So just open up Wikipedia. Let's say you open up a page about Cuba. Try to come up with the best title first of all. So go something like do your research. Maybe you could do something like the hidden nuclear facility in Cuba, or like the worst torture camp in Cuba.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah. And then try to write, and then try to find the story, write the script, try to do the editing. And even if you never upload the video, just upload the video. Just do it. Yeah, just upload the video, even if it doesn't do any views. And then do it again. Open up another Wikipedia page.
I think this is a really great point because like, especially with us, with our like just internal polls and the data we see, like somewhere 70-80% of people who want to be successful YouTubers have never posted their first video.
I think, but even if you like, I think that's why Faces is great. It's because you don't have to be on camera. Like you don't have you need to have a laptop. That's it. You can, even if you don't want to do the voiceover, you just go to 11 apps and like maybe you want to just be a normal YouTuber, but you're extremely scared to be on camera. Then just start practicing with Faceless videos. Just do like open up 11 app, like do the Wikipedia method I told you. Like just start making random essays about I don't know, certain countries, or it could be anything like dinosaurs. Maybe just pick something. And I think over time you'll naturally kind of find your groove, and then you're like, okay, well, I can make really good YouTube videos now. Maybe I can throw it on the camera and make like amazing YouTube videos. And and I think that would be my biggest tip. Like just start doing like right after you watch this podcast, like just start. That's the big
dude. That was excellent, man.
And if you want some help executing on everything that we've talked about in this video, you can apply for our coaching program at the link in the description, where I can personally work with you to almost guarantee that we'll be able to blow up your channel. And for anyone who applies, I'll also send you a free YouTube mini course to your email. My name is JeremyB, and thanks for watching.